So once again, good evening, everyone. My name is Eva Reyes, and I'm the Director of Parent and Family Relations. I'm so glad to have all of you here this evening. We're going to be talking about college costs, which is very important to everyone that is on the call today because we want to make sure that we're able to fund our student education. 2 days ago, we had a financial aid session, so this is kind of like a continuation on this whole funding and billing so that we're very, very well prepared for when bills go out in a couple of weeks and when they're due in the beginning of August. So with that said, I have a few ground rules. Everyone is on mute so that we could get through the presentation quickly as possible so that we're able to answer your questions. The recording is in progress so that if you have any questions or you would like to revisit the session with your students so that you're both getting an understanding, maybe because they weren't able to join you this evening, you're gonna have access to the recording. The closed caption is available. All you need to do is just turn it on your taskbar of the Zoom. The questions, please put them in the chat. We will try our best to answer them as we go along in the chat, but for the purpose of everyone to know what questions are being asked because they may have the same question or anyone watching the recording, if they have a question, like the whole general audience is able to get a response. We're going to be answering questions at the end as a whole. And then at the end, please provide us your feedback. There's going to be a QR code where there's going to be a short 4 or 5 question survey. I just want to know what you thought about the session, what we may have missed. Is there anything else that you will had that you want to learn about, not just this throughout the year? That way I'm able to program for you and bring those sessions to you as we get through the year. So with that said, our presenters are going to present themselves.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Joanna Torres. I'm the Director of Student Enrollment Services. I have been a higher ed professional for over 20 years, and I have been, well, 25 years, and I have been at William Patterson for 14 years. Thank you for joining our session today.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joan Baggety. I'm the Associate Director with Student Enrollment Services. I've been with William Patterson for about 13 years and with the Office of Student Enrollment Services for about 4. Thank you for joining us today. So today we're just going to discuss a few topics. We're going to go over how to contact us, direct and indirect costs, understanding your statements, what's the financial aid offers are about, the payment options, of course, and decisions that impact financial aid. We're also going to give you a few takeaways and remind you of a few announcements towards the end. And if any questions you may have, you could definitely feel free to put that on the chat, but we will be available later for questions as well. So again, we're the Office of Student Enrollment Services. So we actually are the one-stop service office. Here is where, well, our office actually, we're available for your billing needs, your financial aid, anything relating to student records. We're located in Morrison Hall. So we're at 300 Pompton Morrison Hall. We're in the same building where, of course, financial aid and the admission office is located, as well as the registrar. Our hours of operation during the fall and spring semesters are Monday through Fridays, 8:30 to 4:30. However, currently we are working through our summer hours. So we're available Monday through Thursdays, 8 a.m. to 5:15, and the university is closed on Friday. Our best contact information is always via email. You can reach us by phone. We are available between the time frame as shown here within those hours at that phone number. So before we go into the billing, we always like to provide information on how to understand how the billing is assessed. And with understanding the billing is also understanding the registration cycle. So students are available to register for the fall semester in March. But since the students coming in this fall semester, they've had pre-enrollment from the registrar, but going forward, you would know that students are, as a continuous students, they'll be able to register in the March of each year for the fall semesters. And bills are always generated in July. So you'll receive a billing in July for the fall semester only, and of which that will be available in the beginning of July. Payments are due mid-August. That notification will be sent out via the e-statements as well. And for spring, registration is available in October. Bills are generated in November, and then of course with an early payment due date in January. So both billing cycles, you'll be receiving separate statements, and of course registrations will be happening at different timeframes for those particular cycles.
It's important for students to register early to avoid late registration fees of $150. So it's also important to note these dates in March and October to make sure that you avoid late fees that are on the account.
Absolutely. Understanding costs. So we just wanted to let you know what you will see on your billing statement. On your billing statement, it consists of direct costs. So what's billable to the students, you'll see the tuition and fees. If you're enrolling into housing and you've applied for housing and paid the housing fee of $150, you'll also see that there will be a room and a meal plan available on that bill. Also, as a full-time student, you'll also see what's the health insurance on there, because by law, the health insurance fee would have to be added onto the billing statement. Those are considered direct costs, and those are the charges that you would definitely see on the bill. Indirect costs of what is actually taken into consideration for the cost of attendance of what you can see on your financial offer letter, which is books and supplies, transportation, and miscellaneous. That is considered with the cost of attendance, but that is something that would not be available on the billing statement, as that is not considered as direct costs. And just important to note, if your student is not planning to stay into housing, you would not see the room and meal plan charges on there. However, you will see something on your financial aid offer letter as indirect costs, but it would not be considered as a charge on your billing statement. Understanding the cost of tuition and general fees. So as a full-time student, you'll see that the student is going to be anything between 12 and 19 credits. You'll see that the student is charged a flat rate. And currently you'll see that the student's estimated rate would be $8,805 for the semester. If the student is an out-of-state resident, you'll see that they'll be charged the out-of-state fee. However, the student will receive the out-of-state waiver scholarship to bring into the match cost for the in-state rate. If you're an international student, you'll see that there will be a Pioneer Award that would adjust this particular cost in providing you with an 80% discount as a difference between the in and out-of-state rate. We also provided the summer tuition rate. This is actually just information so that you're aware of. This is the current rate for the summer tuition rate. Students coming in will not receive that rate. Of course, the next following year would be a different rate. We should have these particular estimated rates available on the website within the next coming weeks.
Yes, the rate is not finalized, so these are just estimates, but we will know that in another 2 weeks.
Information about cost of room and meals. So if you're considering applying for the housing, just want to give you information on what these rates are. So typically you will have freshman students in a double room. So these rates could vary between 4,400 to 4,600. And as you could see, the cost actually increases. So if a student is wanting to stay in Skyline, you see that this cost is a much higher rate than the double room, especially for apartments. These typically rates are for higher, say, students who are of a higher rate. So maybe juniors, seniors, they will tend to stay within the apartments. And you could see that this cost is actually a much higher cost as opposed to the double room. And this is just to give you information of how you can, when you're selecting your rooms, which options are you choosing so that you see what could what will affect your billing going forward, as well as meal plans. So the average meals is 15 meals, and this is the cost. However, it does varies, and that information is on the Residential Life website as well.
So many students at the end of their fall semester, they decide that they want a dorm for the entire 9 months and they don't want to go back home for during the winter break. And so they decide at the very last minute that they're going to move into a 9 month double. And so I just want you to know that when you're looking at needs versus wants, what does a student want versus what we're able to afford when a student makes a decision to move into a 9th month at the last minute, then just note that there's going to be a differential of that cost in housing, and the differential is going to be, 50, it's going to be $5,400. This is estimated for a double for 9 month per semester. So the cost is going to increase for both fall and spring semesters. So it's important to note that.
Additional charges you may see on your statement as well. We went over the health insurance information as direct costs. So you will see that, of course, on your billing statement. And as indicated before, it is a requirement by state that we will have to provide this on the for all our full-time students. So if you're a part-time student, you would not see this particular charge. This fee is only assessed once a year. You would not see that again in your spring semester if the charge was assessed as a full-time student in the fall semester. You do have the option of waiving this particular fee if, of course, the student has comparable health coverage. This information, of course, will be available too once that billing statement becomes available, and how to waive the fee, of course, is also available in our later slides, but will also be an information that will be on the e-statements as well that goes out in July. And typically the deadline is always in September, so you do have enough time to actually waive the fee, but we recommend that you consider waiving this fee prior to the billing due date so that you're not paying for this charge in advance. The current charge for this particular year, as you can see, is $3,170. And of course, this will be, if you plan on accepting this health coverage, it will cover the student from August 1st to July 31st, a full academic year. Addition to that, I just wanted to let you know, depending on the student's schedule, some courses do actually have a particular digital resource fee that actually is a discounted digital access. That's a course material that's available to students depending on the course. This would automatically be billed on the student bill if that is associated with that particular course. We do ask that, you take a look at that. Students typically want to say waive this particular option, but this is actually a low cost compared to the actual textbook. So if there's something that the student is needing, then we recommend that you remain opt-in into this particular option. Deadline to waive this, of course, is at the 100 withdrawal deadline, and that information too would be available to the students.
Okay, how to pay for these costs for fall 26-27. So I'm not going to get too much into the details because we did have a financial aid session a couple of days ago, but basically we suggest that all students start by completing the FAFSA so that we can kind of get an idea of what their financial aid award package is going to look like, and then we will be able to kind of have an understanding of what that need is going to be after the FAFSA has been received and financial aid has awarded or prepared their financial aid offer. So this is just a quick snapshot in case you wanted to learn how to start the FAFSA, and you can kind of do a snippet and get to the page, and there's a video tutorial on how to do a FAFSA. Next slide. And for New Jersey residents or students who are not eligible to do a FAFSA, then I suggest that you log into njfams.hesa.org and create a login, and just make sure that after you've done your FAFSA, about a week later, you check in here to see if there's any additional documentation that is required by the state. But if you are not eligible to do the FAFSA, then you can create your account here and do what is called the New Jersey Alternative Financial Aid application to check to see what type of eligibility you have. And this page provides you with information on what the requirements are. But I know the financial aid presentation 2 days ago had a little bit more details about that information on your requirements.
Yes, estou.
This other portal, which is the scholarships portal, will provide you with other types of scholarships. So let's say your student came in to the university, and while they may have received a scholarship based on merit, then you might want to consider to see if there's any additional awards that they might be eligible for. Each of these departmental departments have different scholarships that students can apply separately for. And I suggest that if this is something that you're interested in, to just apply online. Later on, I will talk about, after the student has established a GPA, I will discuss donor scholarships. Donor scholarships students are not eligible right now because it does require a GPA, but all these other external scholarship students can apply for. So now that you have the student has registered, you did your FAFSA, you've potentially applied for scholarships when a financial aid offer is issued. So right now, because you're a new incoming student and you need to kind of get a snapshot of what your award is going to be, you're getting your award offers earlier. So you're getting them as soon as, like, after you've been accepted and after the FAFSA has been received and we received all the information and documentation if necessary based on some students who might have to submit additional information. But typically for a student right now who has completed a full year and they are waiting for their award package for next year, students are starting to get their award offers now, like middle to end of June. The reason for that is that we have to wait for the spring or summer grades to come into effect so that we could see, one, did the student move from freshman to sophomore year, because then there are different aid limits and award limits that they're eligible for. But also we look at GPA and see what other types of awards they are eligible for. So students right now that started last fall are getting their award packages now for next fall, which is in line, if you remember when Miss Baggety was talking about the new bills are going out in July. So we try to get you these award packages in place before you get the bill in July so that all those awards are already on the bill and you would be able to look at that. So we're going to go into all of this now. Okay. So every semester, we do drop students for non-payment. So the due date and you looking at the due date is key and first and foremost thing that you need to do. So as soon as the student receives the email saying that you have your a summary of your e-statement, because that's what's going to happen, it's important to go in and look at the actual bill, look at the due date, review the financial aid awards that were in the financial aid award package and make sure that those are reflected on the bill. And if they're not, then you contact us because then we will investigate or explain why. Then after you've reviewed the entire, like the charges, make sure that the student is being charged appropriately. Then the awards are posted appropriately. If there is any excess funding, so if there's a negative, it means that you don't have to pay anything because that's a credit on the account. But if there is a balance due, then we need to kind of like work through things on how we are going to pay for those that bill due. So I'm going to get into the particulars in a bit, but just a quick synopsis. It could be through either a tuition installment plan, or if you have payments coming in from a third party, like a scholarship organization, or if you've partnered or invested into a 529 plan. I will talk more about that and how you can kind of withdraw those. But we need to have these items in place or be financially cleared for your student by that due date. If not, then we do allow a week's grace period. And after that grace period, then we start removing students from courses. We do get them back into courses once they've cleaned up their account, but we'd rather this happen and this review process happen sooner rather than later. Because if you can imagine, everybody is calling us in the last week, right by the due date, and trying to service 10,000 students all at once can be quite tedious for the departments. And also at very last minute, it leaves me with little resources to be able to help you and support you with getting that clearance. So the sooner the better. Okay, so where can you review the bill? This is where students will be logging in to view their bill. This is their WP Connect portal. You've probably seen this in a few sessions already, but it's important to kind of like show you our billing and payment section here. And under the billing and payment section, students can set up authorized users, which I'm going to get into that in a minute, which is basically giving you access to all these bills that I'm going to be talking about. Students can review charges, review their payments, make payment plans, tax information. So this is where they're going to get their 1098-T tax forms to see if they're eligible for lifetime credits for tax season next year. They could set up direct deposit for the student who has a credit on their account and they're going to be getting a refund. They could sign up for what is called e-refunds and they can get a deposit directly deposited into their bank account. And also, if you have any student that is going to be getting payment from like a third party, there are some local unions that parents participate in or families participate in where they have a letter of credit saying the student will be receiving $2,000 and then we will then honor that and then reduce that from the bill based on those letters that we receive. So this is a great portal for your student to provide you access to. So when they click on the billing and payment portal, this is what it looks like. So you will see everything in yellow, which the very first top one is authorized users. That's where the student will indicate your name, your email, and will authorize what type of access you have, like to make payments, to view bills, to sign up for payment plans, and to get that 1098-T form, which is the tax record you're going to need for taxes for next year. Payment profiles, this is where students can set up their payment profiles or refunds, electronic refunds of if they're expecting a refund. The view statements is where I wanted to make sure that you understood that whenever you get a new bill, it's always good to look at your latest e-bill statement. And this is what we're going to review now. So this is a sample of a statement. I tried to color code it. I try my best because I know the writing is little, so I apologize in advance. But things to look out for at the top, you will see the term, and this is a sample bill from fall of 2025. And on the right-hand side, you will see the due date and the amount that the student has to pay by the due date. So the items in green, you will notice that says estimated housing charge, $15 meal plan, security deposit retainers. So everything in green is the housing charges. And if you would note, this student, when they first signed up, they were not given an assignment, a housing assignment by the time this bill was sent. So what they received was like an estimated charge of their housing. And then once they received that housing assignment, in this case, the student received a High Mountain West assignment, that 4610 came off and then the new 4610 came on so that you can kind of see that that trajectory of how the charges are coming in and out from the account. If you will note the housing estimated, there's a security deposit retainer, but also you will see also in green under the credits column, you'll see $150 housing security deposit. So all these deposits that you're making, housing security deposit, enrollment deposits are also viewable here, and you could see how those monies are being utilized. In red, you will see it says freshman orientation fee of $125. And then you'll see under the credit side, $125 is also the payment or the enrollment deposit that pays for those orientation fees. And in blue, you will see this student was charged a full year student insurance of $29.40. So families have the opportunity to waive this fee. And once you see this fee has been waived, at the bottom under the credits, you will see a credit for $29.40 and it'll say insurance waiver. In this particular situation, it is there and it is in blue and it says waiver full year insurance $29.40 under the credits. So you'll be able to see the charge coming in and then you'll be able to see that it's been waived so it offsets the charge. And so those are the things that you kind of need to look for when you're looking at your e-statement. And you're also realizing, and also on the credit side, you'll see all the various different scholarships that this student received, as well as loans that they accepted in order to cover their balance. Okay, so once a student provides a third party, it could be a family member or whoever they designate, they want access to view these billing statements. Um, they also those family members will tend to call in and then want additional information, and they can view it on their screens. But while they're viewing that information, us as administrators, we are bound to a federal policy, which is called FERPA, and it's a Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So much like HIPAA for medical care, this is the same for education. And so while the student may be giving you access to this third-party billing portal, should you call our offices to ask about billing statements, to ask about financial aid, to ask about, is my student enrolled full-time? I will not be able to give you that information unless the student completes the FERPA. So that FERPA waiver is also available on the WP Connect portal where the student can complete that. So that's a second step to the first step where the student provided you with authorized user access to view the bills. And by the way, every time a student receives a new bill, if you're an authorized user, you will also get an email with all those new notifications. And if, let's say, you enroll in a payment plan and it's time for the payment plan, you're going to receive a notification for that next payment plan payment as well. So everything that's in that billing and payment portal, you'll be receiving notifications if you are an authorized user. Okay. So payment options. Let's say you looking at the bill that we had before, you want to pay $196. How do you make the payment? In person in Morrison Hall at room 104, which is the same as the admissions building, we can accept cash. We can accept a check as well. If you bring in a personal check, just make sure that the check has all of like the student's 855 number on it and the student name. That is something that is very important that it include. Um, if you want to mail a check or a money order for whatever balance, this is the PO box that you would send the address, send the check payment to. Just make sure that that student's ID number, that 855 number, is on the check and that it is correct. So double and triple check that number. Students can also make online payments, or authorized users can also make online payments through that billing and payment portal. Your e-checks are free. There's no additional charge if you use the routing number and checking account number or of a routing number or account number of a checking or a savings account, a U.S. savings account. There's no fee for that. However, if you do use a credit card slash debit card, because the system thinks of the debit card number is a credit card number, the card holder will be charged a convenience fee of 3% of whatever that payment is. The minimum dollar amount that it will charge is $3. So I do want to make you aware that if you are using a debit card, just grab the account number and routing number and then use an e-check instead of a debit card to save that fee. Okay. So third-party payments and outside scholarships. So right now, some of your students may have had some micro scholarships that have been awarded to them through or different organizations. If the check is made payable to the student only, student can cash the check and utilize those funds for their educational expenses that they're going to be needing for coming to campus. Books, if they need to get supplies like their laptop or whatever it is that they're going to need, you can feel free to cash that check by the student and then utilize those funds for educational purposes. If the check is made payable to William Patterson University, please bring that to our office in Morrison Hall. So we do need to get that check because we do have to endorse the back. And then what we'll do is then we'll endorse the back, we'll deposit it, and then you'll see it appear under students' financial aid awards within a couple of days. if the check is made payable to both William Patterson University and the student, which we have seen that happen a few times, the student signs the check and the back and then brings the check to us, and then we also have to endorse the back, and then we will deposit it. And then it'll appear under their student's financial aid award information within a couple of days. So if you want these amounts to be reflected against the bill, like to reduce the bill, the sooner that you get these checks, bring them in so that we can then apply them to the account as soon as you get that first statement. Families who have 529 college savings plans, my best recommendation is contact that 529 plan provider to determine the criteria for disbursement. So for instance, my kids had Franklin Templeton. I had to call Franklin Templeton, tell them how much I needed, when I needed the disbursement by. I asked them to send it to me and they ACH'd it to my account directly. And then what I did is I was an authorized user and then I went in and I paid the account directly from my bank account. However, some 529 plans want to send the check distribution directly to the school, and that's okay. Merrill Lynch, I believe, is one of those. And sometimes Merrill Lynch will ask you for a bill. So you just print the e-statement that I was showing you before, print that out and send it to them. And then it has the billing, the mail to information on there, and just make sure that the student's 855 number is on that 529 check. Just note that once you make that call to kind of withdraw funds from 529, it can take about 2 weeks for the checks to be released because it is an investment account. So they have to sell investments and then you get the checks processed and then send them out. So it's important to make sure that you give a plenty of time, a 2 week grace period before the due date before doing that. And third-party payments or company sponsorships. So this is what I was talking about a letter of credit. So if you do have a company that is going to be making a payment on behalf of a student, and there is with the letter of intent or a letter of we are going to be making a payment, just make sure that it's on a company letterhead and it includes the contact information of the person who is responsible for sending the funding so that we always have somebody that we can then go back to in case we have any questions. Payment plan options. So we do offer payment plans every semester. So we have a 5-month plan, a 4-month plan, and a 3-month plan. But most of the students tend to enroll into the 5 and the 4 months. So in the fall, we can start the 5-month installment plan if you start making enrollment in July. So that would mean as soon as you get your first bill, you start enrollment. We can create a 5 installment plan for you. However, if you're not able to do that in July and you need to wait till August, that's okay. It's just remember that in August, we could only give you a 4-month plan, or the university can only honor a 4-month plan. The reason why we limit them to 5 and to 4, and that goes back to the registration schedule. So we need to make sure that the fall semester is paid before the registration for spring begins. So if you remember, Miss Baggerty had indicated that the spring semester enrollment starts in November. So that's why you're going to see that we need to start cutting off the installment plans by a certain deadline. We do also offer a 2-month payment plan in the summer. However, if these options that are offered by the university on that billing and payment portal are not feasible, for instance, all these plans are payments required on the first of the month. If you cannot make a payment on the first of the month and you need something for the 15th of the month, this is where you can contact our office and we have administrative access to manually enroll you into a different plan, and we have other options for you. So if you find that you're going to need that, just always remember to contact us, and here is our contact information. Again, one more time, and you'll see it again later at another point in time within this presentation. Okay. So what if it's not enough? How can students supplement their gap, their educational gap? So there are outside scholarships like we talked about, and there are 529 plans that families have taken out in order to help subsidize that. But there are other outside organizations that you might be able to kind of look into for additional scholarships. For instance, Rotary clubs. Churches, um, even some banks have that you might be banking with might have a scholarship program for local students in their local high schools or local students. So it's something worth considering looking at the different types of clubs and organizations. Elks Club is another one. Um, Students can also consider a job on campus, and I highly recommend work on campus. And learning work culture is something that it's very important. I found for my kids as well. There are various jobs on campus that are offered through various different programs, like Federal Work Study. I'm sure was discussed a couple of days ago with the Office of Financial Aid. But many offices hire student assistants. For instance, Residence Life hires desk attendants for their dorms, and students are paid through their residence or through their residence life budget separately. And internships are offered through our career services office that many students take. I find that they have been very beneficial for students. So they are paid internships as well as non-paid internships, but there are many opportunities that students can take that will give them that real life experience, and they could start utilizing some of that in their resumes and start building that experience. So it's not only education, but it's also the experience that supplements that education. Additional resources, community. One of the things that we do have is an on-campus social worker. I'm not sure if that was mentioned before, but they do provide a lot of access to various different services depending on the student's need at the time. So that has been a huge resource to us. Ms. Bivolets is wonderful, and we work with her all the time. Financial aid counselors are a big resource about how to navigate through things and how to access the different types of funding, as well as our office. So we're often kind of in connection with various different donor populations or different little pockets of money on campus that we may be able to help supplement if you are in an emergent need for a payment. Again, this is very big. Consider needs versus wants. Can the student afford to stay 9 months? And sometimes they want to stay 9 months, but then they also want a single room, and then that increases the cost exponentially. So, what is it that you're able to do, and what is it that you really want to do? And those two are very different conversations. In terms of supplies and electronic equipment, determine what type of need the student is going to have. If they're a student that is in a computer a science type of program, then they're going to probably need a laptop and work, that requires a higher more functionality. And so, but then you might have a student that might not need all of that. So just think of what type of electronic equipment and their supplies that are they really in need of. Okay. One of the questions that we get often is, do we need loans? I know that the financial aid office discussed what is a private loan and a federal loan, so I'm not going to get too much into that. But while I do want for families to understand is that students, yes, have an option for a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan. Some families just opt to take out a Parent Plus loan and tell the student, don't do the subsidized and unsubsidized. And that's okay too. Just remember that for parents who do need this extra funding, and most of the time they're needing it, to be honest, is for students who are in residence life that they need additional funding for the room and the board. Just remember that there are new limits for parent borrowers now. So it's a $65,000 max lifetime limit for the parent. So if you're thinking of your student being in school for 4 years, and let's say you try to borrow a max of 20,000 per year, because that's the maximum that the government will allow you to borrow, you're going to fall short in year 4. You're not going to have enough funding in year 4 to help supplement your students' education. And so you really need to look at the bill and see how much you need. Because sometimes parents are just applying for the loan and they're taking out the max, and then they're getting refunds or their students are getting refunds. And do they really need all that money refunded? And how much are you taking away from your future access to funding? So it's really important that if a student does have eligibility for subsidized and unsubsidized, and a parent does have eligibility for a parent, take out the better options first. I would suggest a subsidized loan first before then you would consider a parent loan. It's got better interest rates. The interest rates are subsidized in the first 4 years by the federal government. So making those decisions and important wise ones in partnership, if you need to speak to your financial aid counselor or with us, we can have those conversations. But there are at times where students and families, the parent can't qualify for a loan. So students do have to participate in a private loan. In the next slide, we'll discuss more of the private loan options. So unlike a plus loan, a private loan, it's like through a private lender, through a bank. And so a cosigner doesn't need to be a parent. It could be a relative, it could be a family friend. Um, And how do you shop for these loans? Well, this is the website that we have, and basically these are lenders that we have in this portal where you can kind of shop and compare interest rates, view their repayment policies. Students who don't make such good decisions, sometimes they are only limited to this, and I'll get into that in a minute. Um, but it's important to know your options. So if you ever have to consider a private loan, this is a website that you can kind of go to. Also, if you are part of a credit union, I would suggest consider the credit union student loans first, because they might have better rates than these private lenders here. So this is the portal, so you can kind of like explore if needed. But we would rather you, before you go this route, have a conversation with financial aid and with us to see what options you have. Okay, so let's go back to like a student that we were talking about, that if they had a credit balance on their account, how do they access that refund in order to buy books or in order to buy a laptop that they might need? So once the semester starts, financial aid doesn't pay to the account up until the courses are confirmed by the professor, which means students have to be attending classes and there is an attendance record that we get. And not until all classes have an attendance marker are we able to disperse the aid to the account. So when you get your first bill in July, you're seeing something that is called expected aid, or we call it a memo, but it is not real money. The money doesn't come in till end of September, early October for fall, excuse me, or end of February or early March for spring. So how do students access this money if they need that refund in order to buy books or to buy laptops? Or other digital purchases too? They can do this bookstore deferment. And what we will do is whatever they sign up for, up to $700. If they say, all right, let's say they have a credit of $1,000 and they want to send $700 to the bookstore. Within 24 hours, they complete this form. Within 24 hours, a $700 appears under their bookstore account. And they literally could use that credit as if it was like an Amazon gift card. It'll be on their account where they can kind of utilize it. It does limit them only to educational books and supplies. And then after a certain time period, after October and after financial aid disperses, any excess money that they didn't use, then they would be able to use it. It will become kind of a Pioneer Cash where they would be able to use it on campus for other things that they want to purchase. But this is a really good option for students, especially when they need access to get them their funding. The other part of this too is that while they do apply for this bookstore deferment, they also have to complete a step 2, which is completing their what is called the Title IV authorization. And basically it just says, I authorize you to use this financial aid to pay this bookstore deferment. It's very simple and it's a 2-step process. If your student gets confused, they can call our office and we will tell them exactly how to navigate through it. We could even set up a Zoom session and get them to share their screen, and we'll tell them what to do. Okay. So additional funding for the future. So let's say you didn't have a merit scholarship during the admissions process. Every year, students have an opportunity to apply for what is called the donor scholarship application, and it basically it's one application. It's mostly fits all for donor scholarships. We have thousands of scholarships out there, and definitely students are encouraged to apply for these awards. The criteria varies, and as soon as a student fills out the application, it's already starting to match them for the different ones. A committee will then review these scholarships. So let's say the student applies in March, the application closes in April. By May, the committee is starting to review and kind of like award these to students. Awardees will get information via their email and sometime like the third week of June about their award. They are required to provide an essay. They are required to provide a letter of recommendation, which basically they just nominate the person they want the letter to come from, and then we'll contact them to get that letter. And yeah, so students really have to pay attention to their email, because once we open up this application, we want them to complete this application as soon as possible, and they will be notified by email about this award. We also do post it on our social media portals and also the university announcements. But this is key for you to remember for next March to remind your student to apply. Okay. Requirements that can impact financial aid. I talked about attendance and how financial aid will not disperse to the account unless the attendance is met. So that's one thing. Another thing right now, so let's say you did your FAFSA and you do not yet have a financial aid award offer for your student. Well, it could mean that either your legal name or your Social Security name on the FAFSA is not matching our application where the student applied at the university. Some students are using their preferred name or a nickname when they're applying. So for instance, you might see a student that applied as Bobby Jones, and really their name is Robert Jones. So that mismatch of a name is preventing the FAFSA from coming in. So if you do not have a financial aid award offer as of yet, it could be a mismatch with some of these things. You can feel free to email us at studentservices@wpunj.edu so that we can then review that student's account. And finally, with these requirements, another thing that you need to do is make sure that the final official high school transcript has been received. So while we admitted you and gave you a preliminary award offer based on a transcript that we received while the student was in school, your students are graduating now. So that means that their graduation date was not yet on their degree on their high school transcript. So we need a new transcript after the degree has been awarded or their high school diploma has been awarded. We need a new transcript to be sent to admissions to be able to clear the student. Financial aid students are not eligible for financial aid if they have not graduated successfully from high school. So that's the reason why. Okay, decision making. What other decisions can impact financial aid and student progress? So there are many decisions that students take that you are unaware of that might impact student progress. You can do next slide. Thank you, Eva. I don't know if it's stuck. Okay. So one of the things is sometimes students are not registering full time. Most scholarships require a full-time enrollment, so 12 plus credits per semester. Just remember that many of the scholarships are only for 4 years or 8 consecutive semesters. So if your student doesn't enroll or doesn't graduate within the 4 years, then that scholarship may not apply in year 5. Federal Pell Grant, so this is the free financial aid from the FAFSA. Just know that again, some students are not registering full time. And so let's say a needy student will receive a full amount of $7,395 for their fall and spring semester. But you might not see that fully dispersed onto the account. It could mean that they did not enroll for the full 12 credits or they did not attend classes for the full 12 credits. Maybe there might be one class that they didn't attend. So the limit to that is that you get that for full 12 semesters, and it's based on eligibility because it's also based on income year to year. But it's important to note that, there's 12 semesters of this type of award. For the TAG, which is the Free State Award, again, that also requires 12 credits, and this one doesn't get prorated. So if a student is not registered for 12 credits, they lose their award completely. So a very needy student, this could mean about $9,500 for the year that they're losing out on. The limit is 9 semesters for this type of award. And also, there is you've probably heard the Garden State Guarantee funding, which is the state award for gap funding for families that make under $65,000 aggregate income per year. We also do offer the Pledge for Success, which is for freshmen and sophomores for families in these same situations. Those students also need to be enrolled for at least 12 plus credits. So it's important that, as your student is making decisions about, do I drop this class? Don't I drop this class? We need to be cognizant that those decisions could then start impacting these awards. Okay. So this is just kind of like a visual. So we talked about a student, a full-time student, high need, full Pell and full tag. So the Pell for the fall, and I'm just going to use fall semester. A Pell grant for the fall semester is $3,697. A tag award for the fall semester is $4,748. This is for a high need student. That means that it's $8,445 in free financial aid. If we're estimating that this year's tuition cost is going to be $8,805, this student would be kind of almost fully funded with the award from financial aid, just in those 2 grants alone. I'm not even talking about scholarships or some of the other grants. So, it's important to make sure that your student is enrolled for the maximum amount of credits to maximize their financial aid. The award letters that you received, the award offers, are based on full-time enrollment. And once students start changing that, then those award amounts start changing. Another thing to determine and to understand is a freshman is a student from 0 to 29 credits. A sophomore is a student from 0 to 59 credits earned. A junior is a student who's earned from 60 to 89. And a senior is a student who has earned from 90 to 120 credits. So what does that tell you? That students need to be earning at least 30 credits per semester in order to graduate in 4 years. So it's 30, 60, 90, 120. Those are 4 years. So when you have a student that's registering only 12 credits per semester, in example number 1, that student in year 4 is going to still need 24 more credits to graduate. They will not be able to complete a full 120 credits in 4 years. They will only have 96 credits per year. That means that you have to budget and plan for 1 more year of school if your student only takes 12 credits per semester. So if you have a student that struggles academically and they could only do 12 credits per semester, that's okay too. Just remember that we need to then make sure that we encourage them to also register for a summer session where they can kind of make up for those gaps to make sure that they graduate in 4. Student number 2, this student is taking 15 credits per semester, and you'll see that the credits by year 4, they would have earned 120. They graduate on time. A student that completes everything and is timely with all their assignments and timely with everything will get all of their award, and they will be on time and really not have any financial costs that have been cut or reduced or anything like that, or have to budget for an additional semester. Now, in student number 3 is a student that is taking 18 credits per semester. And if you remember, the tuition cost is the same, whether you are doing 12 credits, 15 credits, or 18 credits, your tuition charges are the same because that's where the flat rate comes into play. And this is why we want you to maximize the number of credits that you take, that your student takes per year. So this student number 3 in year 4, they earned their entire 120 credits by the fall, which means that they graduate early. They don't even need to go to the spring semester, and they're right now would have saved 8,805. And I'm using 8,805 because that would be the cost for this year, but it could potentially be, higher in a future year. So it's important that if you have that type of student that can kind of graduate early and make more timely decisions, to graduate early, that this is optimal for them to do at least 18 credits, but they could do up to 19 for the same cost. And finally, this is when I was talking about students who do not make some smart decisions, and they might be not focusing on their studies, and their GPA might fall below a 2.0, or they might start classes and then withdraw, and then next semester start classes and then withdraw. Students are now starting to impact or affect their attempted credits, and basically these criterias are things that are important in order to keep what is called satisfactory academic progress. And if a student falls below the 2.0, or if a student is not completing or finishing at a rate of 67%, completing classes at a rate of 67%, then they might lose their financial aid. They are given one opportunity to do a financial aid appeal, and that was discussed in the financial aid workshop a couple of days ago. So if it's something that this is something that I would highly recommend that you revisit in that workshop, and I know that Eva is sharing that presentation as well with you guys. But students who did not do the appeal, who were not taking opportunities with that one-time chance to do these things and lose their federal and state aid, those are the students that now have to opt for a private loan. And so that is where making decisions and timely decisions and making sure that your student is on track is key in order to prevent additional costs or additional expensive costs like having to pay higher interest rates for a private loan. Okay, so if you have a student that is an athlete, or if you have a student that suffers from a chronic illness, or you know that there's a mental health condition that might impede their academic progress in the middle of the semester. So there are times of the semester where the student can withdraw at 100%, the student can withdraw at 50%, but after that they don't get any refund because we do have to pay our faculty. Parents, I encourage you to look at this GradGuard, which is a tuition insurance. It is very affordable. You can even go into that webpage and kind of do a sample of, it'll give you an estimated cost of what it would be for a fall semester or a spring semester. And the reason why I encourage it is because I've had students that are playing football, have a concussion, can't continue because they have a medical note letting them know that they cannot continue, and then they have to withdraw. This insurance will provide this is an investment, and so you're making sure that you're securing that investment and you're protecting it. So it is an option. It is not mandatory, but I do want you to know that it is out there for you. Families who are also in residence life, who are going to be dorming on campus, this insurance is also going to be existent for the dorm rooms. And so you'll be receiving more information of that from Residence Life on that. This is a chart. Some families are often asking, what is the investment into the future? What is, what is this degree getting me? Well, this is kind of a chart and you could explore the webpage, and this was a study done in 2023 by the U.S. Career Institute. A high school diploma, their lifetime learnings, and this is just where I want you to focus on. A student with a high school diploma, their lifetime learnings, they can get up to $2,242,000 in lifetime earnings, versus for a student that has a bachelor's degree, it's 4 million. So it's kind of like duplicating exactly what the potential future earnings for a high school student. So I thought it was an important visual and based on this study, and it would be a good study if you want to kind of like learn a little bit more about how that was conducted. But it is, and it has been holding to the trends within the past few years. So I thought I would include that for your reference. Tips and takeaways. And I know we're going a little bit over, but I will work on this as fast as possible. Student emails. It's important that students start checking their emails. And it is their student William Patterson email that is our primary method of communication. Right now, admissions uses a lot of their personal emails, but they really should start moving over into their student email for a lot of the communications that are coming in from our offices. Look at the e-statement details, compare your financial aid award offer. If you don't see something on there, it's time for you to contact us as soon as you get that first statement in July. Payment due dates, pay close attention to those due dates. Mindful of also the semester calendars. There's a week's grace period where students can kind of test out classes, move in and out of classes, things like that. Make sure that they are within those calendar deadlines, and that's the web page for the calendars and the deadlines. Same let's say a student needs to withdraw from housing or exit a meal plan. There are deadlines for those as well, and they are different than the deadlines for the classes. So it's important to do that, to review those deadlines. And another key takeaway is proper planning. It's everything. Ask questions. If you don't know, that's what we're here for, to help you plan, help answer all of your questions, help gather and help you find resources or explain how you can apply for those resources. There's money out there that you can kind of explore and get. Meeting all the deadlines. Students have lost their money because they do not file the FAFSA by that deadline. If you can, as best as possible, do that FAFSA during the holidays when your students are home in December. That is the perfect time to do the FAFSA for next year. You have them there, just do your FAFSA, get that out of the way, and you will make sure that you don't miss out on any of the state deadlines, which are the state is really difficult and they were very strict on those deadlines. Needs versus wants. Look at what your student is selecting in housing and room and board and their meal plans. Do they really need that? What are their selections for their electronics? Do they really need that? And investing into your future, making sure that it's secure, making sure that, you know, with the proper planning and meeting the deadlines, that your investment is secured for the future of your student. And then I guess the next slide is going to probably be our contact information again. We also, here's a QR code for our how-to videos. So a lot of the things that I talked about here, we have a video on. So we have a whole library of different things, like authorized users, how to view the bill, how to do, you know, how to do FERPA, how to set up e-refunds. We have that all available to you in this, in our portal. And I will give it back to Eva.
All right. So thank you, Joanna and Joan. So right now we're going to go through some announcements and reminders. If you were here in the last few sessions, they haven't changed much, except I do have one new one. So we're currently observing summer hours, as Joanna indicated at the beginning of the session. We are observing those through August 14th. Offices are open Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5:15, with the exception for this week and the week ending in July 3rd, because we were observing the Independence Day holiday that Friday. So that those weeks and this week we're back to 8:30 to 4:30 and closed Friday. Do keep in mind, and I haven't mentioned this before, is that on Wednesday mornings, although the university is operating from 8 to 5:15, on Wednesday mornings, where offices are actually going to be open at 10 a.m. because we have professional development from 8 to 10. So if you're going to contact us on a Wednesday, it will have to be after 10 a.m. for most offices. So we also have the Pioneer Family Corner. I'm still looking for features, getting to know you through your storytelling. So if you could please participate, just complete the interest form. You could scan the QR code. I'm going to send a separate email with the information again to everyone. because I would love to get to know your story, get to know you a little bit more, and share that information with the rest of the William-Paterson community. So something new that started last Friday is there's a family orientation discussion board on the William-Paterson Family Portal. The QR code to get to the portal is right there. It's the space designed for you to connect with one another, be able to build community, ask questions, share your experiences. There are William-Paterson staff in the portal that will be able to answer your questions. So if you have any questions about like financial aid or what we've discussed this evening about cost, or if you have a question about residence life, feel free to log into the portal and join the discussion on the discussion board and ask your question there. You're able to post your question, and then we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So this is our last pre-orientation session, and I hope that with the series of sessions that we had starting in late April, that you were able to get like a sense of all the information that is out there that you should know about and that your students should know about. So the pre-orientation series was designed so that you're able to get all this information in buckets, as opposed to getting overwhelming information during orientation and then still be left with like questions to ask. So again, I hope that if you've joined us for all the pre-orientation sessions, one, thank you, but two, that you were able to get a lot of valuable information that you were able to share with your student. So now that we are going to part ways for our pre-orientation sessions, we're gonna welcome you back, but this time in person, and that's gonna be during in-person new student orientation. There are 3 dates for first year orientation. So July 16th, July 28th, July 30th. Your student is able to sign up for any of those days. The invitations already went out. Students get invited to orientation if they have completed their placement testing. If they haven't completed their placement testing, they have to do that first before they get invited. So if your student already did that, they could actually go onto the orientation webpage, and there is a blue button that says RSVP, and they could RSVP through there. If they are unable to RSVP, is because something's wrong, and then at that point you're able to email orientation, and then they'll be able to look into the account and kind of see what's happening, and then verify or confirm if the student hasn't taken the placement test, and maybe that's the reason why they can't do it. But most importantly, when you go to orientation, be prepared to ask questions. That's what we want you to do. Ask questions. Get to know the personnel, get to know the people that are going to be helping your student along the way, and make connections with them. I'm always going to be here to support you, but just having a familiar face and being able to kind of like connect with other people, that's also great, because those are the people that are going to be working directly with your student. And last, have fun. It's gonna be a full day of emotions, like your student is experiencing something new. It's not like any orientation that you've been to. So it's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to have a lot of different emotions. You're supposed to feel that, right? But we're here to support you. We're here to support your student, and we want you to have a great experience during orientation. So make sure that you encourage your student to sign up. And that's it as far as our formal presentation. So if you're able to, again, please provide your feedback for if you join us for all the sessions. Let me know how we did. Like I said earlier, let me know what you want to know throughout the semester. Just so you know, our first Real Talk series session is going to be on September 9th, I believe. Let me just double check that date. Yeah, September 9th. And actually, we're going to go over Willpower 101. And that's the freshman seminar course that your student is going to be taking, so that you kind of have an idea of what they're going to be going through that first seminar. And actually, it's going to be like a class for you too. So we're going to have a syllabus for you, and it's going to be a series of like sessions that we're going to have so that you, along with your student, you're also learning what they're learning so that you can reinforce that information at home. And then we're also going to have like probably a session about mental health. We're going to have a session about conduct, especially if your student is living on campus. So I highly recommend for you to be able to attend that one. So with that said, I look forward to seeing you in orientation, and I am going to stop sharing, and then we're going to open up the floor for questions.
So
Oh.
there's one question. Are housing assignments made by orientation, or if they meet someone at orientation, can they request them as a suite mate, for example? So those assignments are made by Residence Life, and I don't think that they will be done by orientation, but it also depends where the student is at in the process of that selection. So let's say I want to dorm with Eva, but Eva hasn't yet completed her application and hasn't yet paid her deposit. I can't have an assignment up until I wait for Eva. So it's a combination of things. So the best person to contact or to really get a feel of where they're at in the process is Residence Life. So as your student has made those applications and done their selections and kind of like done their preferences, I would say allow it like a week or two, and then contact Residence Life because that other student may not have completed other documents that they may need to do for that.
So yeah, so we had a residence life session last week. So I highly encourage you to just go back to go to our YouTube channel and just review that session just to make sure. I do think that they cover that in the session, so just watch it, but you definitely email them at home. If your student still hasn't signed up, completed their housing application, then yes, they may meet someone during orientation that they may want to be roommates with. So like Jonna said, it just depends where you are in the process.
For the insurance waiver,
Yeah, there's a lot
I
of questions about
I
the health insurance.
I would wait till you get your bill in July, because right now we probably haven't sent a file yet to the insurance company of all the students that are registered for fall. So
Mhm.
I know that it definitely goes out that first week of July. So just wait till you get your billing statement in July and then log into the portal and then waive it. It should take, depending on the type of insurance, it could take about 4 to 5 days. However, if it is a New Jersey Care, that the state takes a little bit longer to confirm because it does get verified. So I would suggest that if you have New Jersey Care, do that when do the waiver as soon as possible. I have seen it take about 3 weeks sometimes. But that is not on us. That's that we have to wait for the response time from New Jersey Care for that. But typically it's very quick.
So there was a question about the 9-month housing. So only if students are signed up for 9-month housing can they stay over all the different breaks that students typically leave campus for. So if your student is not in a 9-month housing, they have to leave for Thanksgiving break, winter break, and spring break, but they can leave all their things there, and because they're going to return back to the same room, and they won't be charged the 9-month housing because the residence halls are actually going to close. There's a question about FERPA. It's asking for a 4-digit PIN. Where would I receive that? Your student has to assign the 4-digit PIN and share that with you, so that way when you call or email us, you're giving us that 4-digit PIN and we could confirm or verify your identity. Let's see, what other questions? We answer the question about the housing assignments. How long does the insurance waiver process take if completed now? I don't know if this has changed, but it generally takes about 5 days for them to verify the information. And then they send over the information back to the university saying that the student is eligible for the waiver. But like Joanna said, it's probably a little bit too early to do that. So definitely wait until that bill is generated so that you could see the charge on the account, and then you could go ahead and have your student do the waiver. The student is the one that has to do the waiver because it's behind SSO login for students, so it has to confirm their credentials for William Patterson. So the student is the one that has to do it. There is no second session today. This is the only session, but it's being recorded, so it's gonna go on the YouTube channel by later on this evening.
And the question about the meal plans. So what if a student doesn't get that? Are they able to go to the cafeteria and purchase food? So with the meal plans, if you're in housing, you definitely have to be assigned to a meal plan. However, if the student is a commuter, the student has the option to purchase a commuter plan as well. So if you're trying to purchase food with the cafeteria, um, eh, it is more affordable to if you purchase a commuter meal plan. That cost is also available on the website. It is not something that is mandatory, but you do have the option of purchasing that as well. And there are also,
They can pay. They don't need a meal plan in order to purchase food at the cafeteria.
yeah,
Because but
so
it's recommended that
it's recommended
it's cheaper with
yeah.
the
with
commuter
the
meal
meal plan.
plan. Mhm.
What I suggest is that again, watch the Residence Life session because our director of hospitality services, Clint, goes over the different meal plans and options for commuter students. Like Joan said, if the student is living in the residence halls, they need to have a meal plan. But if the student is a commuter or if they live in the apartments, they can have what they call block plans, which are relatively like cheaper than the meal plan, or they could have Pioneer Express. He goes over all that stuff on there. And again, the recordings are on our YouTube channel. How do we find out who my student counselors are? So there are a lot of counselors. So the best way to find out who the advisors are is if the student goes to Navigate, there's going to be a list of who their academic advisor is. So in college, we call them advisors, not counselors. In so on there, there's also going to be their financial aid counselor, their their career coach, their residence life advisor, their faculty mentor. A whole bunch of different people are going to be on there. So highly encourage for them to start perusing on the Navigate app so that they could familiarize themselves with their student success team.
And when they're
Um,
in WP Connect, at the top, there's like a little tiles that have like little tiny little tiles. When they click on that, it opens up and then they'll be able to see the Navigate portal to click into there.
So there's another question about housing, that they completed the application and paid the fee, but they haven't heard anything yet. And are the hours the same? Yes, the hours are the same for university-wide. It could be that they are in the process of assigning. I don't know how long ago they you reach out to them or how long ago you completed the application, but you could call them or you could email them at home, home at wpunj.edu.
I provided that in the response, so you have it if you want to just grab it from there.
Okay, and it seems as that's it.
Does anybody have any questions? You can come off mute and just make sure it's a general question, not something particular, because this is recorded. So we just want to make sure it's a general question.
Okay.
Okay, you're welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending our session.
Thank you so much. And again, I really hope that everyone enjoyed the series. For everyone that kept coming back every day sometimes or every week. And I look forward to seeing you during orientation, during the ice cream social. Please come by, say hello, let's share an ice cream. Because I'll be happy and eager to meet all of you. So good night and congratulations to all of you that are celebrating graduations in the next few days. Have a good
Congratulations to your
night.
graduates.
Congratulations. Good
Good
night.
night. See
Take
you.
care.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon.